It's all good.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks.
That's
We're
good.
low-key freaking out, but yeah, thanks.
Oh,
Okay. You all can see my screen, right?
yes. Thank you.
Okay. I'll just quickly introduce myself. Akachi would go on accepting everyone in, so
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So thank you for all who've rejoined. So just yeah, as I mentioned, software as a service is usually a tech company who will package their software as a service. Yeah. So for example, a lot of these SaaS companies, they will have a product that they'll charge like on a monthly basis. So they may say, right, for this particular accounts payable software, you'll have to pay X amount. So I'll use GBP. So you'll have to pay £35 a month, and you're not committed or you're not tied into a long-term contract, but it will just continue to roll over as a monthly contract. And if you want to cancel, you have 30 days notice. So the reason why I emphasize on that is because for a lot of the roles that I'll go into, some of the roles you will have to manage that to ensure that people don't cancel. Yeah, you want to retain as many customers as possible because your business really will survive on that. So a lot of SaaS companies need to ensure that their sales team or their tech sales team are equipped. They understand the importance of their role, and they understand the skills that they need in order to make sure that if they bring on a new client, they're not canceling after, let's say, a month, right? Otherwise, that doesn't make sense in terms of retention. But yeah, we'll go into that in a bit more detail when I go into the roles. So thank you. Thank you so much. And one thing to note is that if there's any questions, I don't want to just be talking to you or at you. Please do interact, drop comments, let me know if you agree, let me know if you've got any insights. I want this to be as interactive and beneficial for us all, because I could be learning from you just as much as you're learning from me. Perfect. So the role of an SDR. So an SDR is a sales development representative. In sales or in a tech company, what they tend to be is the entry. They're usually like the people who are at the beginning. So let's say, for example, I have a company or a tech company, and I'm like, right, SDRs, go and find me our ideal customers. This is what our ideal customers look like. They could be this business with this revenue or this turnover. Go and find them. So the SDR, I would say, usually have one of the most interesting roles. Some people may see it as good, some people may see it as bad. And what I mean by interesting, they will have to do what we call cold outreach. So cold outreach means they will have to go on platforms such as LinkedIn, Facebook, networking events to go and ensure that they find these right customers that are aligned to the business, which is not easy. When I was an SDR, for example, one of the things that we were targeted on or one of the biggest things is booking meetings with your ideal prospect, your ideal client. And booking meetings is ideally, when you book a meeting with that person or that prospect, they need to be as qualified as possible. So the likelihood of them actually buying has to be high. So you can't just be contacting everyone and anyone. You really need to have a strategy. So a lot of tech companies, they will equip SDRs with a lot of different softwares, one being Sales Navigator. So for example, if you look at platforms such as LinkedIn, there is a tool within LinkedIn where a sales team can purchase like a premium subscription, and they can access a Sales Navigator, which is where they could pretty much type in using a search bar the clients that they're looking for. So if I'm looking for an accountant, or if I'm looking for a construction business or a marketing business, or I'm looking for people in these senior C-suite roles, I can just literally just type that in, and LinkedIn will then give me all of that data. At that point, I can then reach out to them. I'm not too sure. Let me see if I can share my screen, because I appreciate, bear with me 1 second. But does that make sense? Do let me know. Like, you could unmute yourself if that makes sense so far, or if you have any questions. Thank you, Stephanie. So what I'm going to see if I can share my screen on my end, because that may be easier. Thank you, Peter. And feel free to unmute yourself, if anything. Okay, yeah. So an SDR is very much a crucial role. A lot of the times in tech companies, one thing to note in terms of like the remuneration, the pay, SDRs are seen to be like the entry level role. And the pay isn't as high as you would expect for like an account executive or any other roles, like in I guess the salesy tech roles. However, it's not to say that SDRs can't make good money. So a lot of the times in these tech companies, you'll have a target. So the SDRs may be targeted on the amount of meetings that they have, right? So they may say, their managers may say to them, please book 50 meetings for the month, or 100 meetings for the next 2 months. So the SDRs will be targeted on that. And they'll be also targeted on the quality of those calls. And usually they will also get commission or some money based on whether that person or that business buys. Because that's important. Because I can go on to book 50, 100 meetings, but no one may buy. So they have to incentivize me to make sure that I'm booking the right meetings with the right people. Now, when the SDR gets the right person or the right company, what they then tend to do is then pass it on to account executive. So what they're now saying to the account executive is, okay, I've got this ideal company or prospect who may want to buy. Can you hold the meeting? So just like we're having this call now, the account executives will then hold the meeting or do a demo of the software with that particular client. So the SDR doesn't do that. The SDR will be primarily trying to go and search. And as I've mentioned, they'll use tools like Sales Navigator through LinkedIn. Yes. Now, I'll just share some tips around this, because yeah, there's a lot of things around the SDR role which a lot of people tend to overlook. As an SDR, what I would say is one of the key tips or one of the key skills that you need to be aware of is being resilient. Because imagine having to go out to random organizations, even though they may be the ideal client for you, but calling them up or going onto LinkedIn to say, right, do you think you want to buy our service or buy a product? More times than not, you'll get more no's than yes. So you really, really have to be resilient. Another thing that I would say as an SDR that's really key in terms of skills is you need to learn how to listen and actively listen, because there may be some people that you're speaking to who may say to you, okay, Miriam, it sounds great, but it's not the right time. I don't want to talk about the product right now. I want to talk about the product in the next 6 months because our business will be in a better position to then buy. And that's okay. But some SDRs may be too keen to get a call in or to get a meeting booked in for the account executive that they miss that and they may not listen. And sometimes if you don't understand active listening, you can ruin that relationship. So I always urge any SDR to make sure that you're not just trying to sell or get a meeting in without listening. Try and cooperate with them. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time on SDRs, but do let me know if you have any questions before I go into the next section. Amazing. So perfect. So the role of an account executive. So in tech sales, if you're looking at the sales, thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. If you're looking at the sales-based roles, I would say account executive tend to earn the highest amount of money. Why? Because they're in charge of not only doing the meetings that the SDRs bring, but they're in charge of closing that deal. And that deal can range depending on, every tech company will have their own pricing. Some may have, for example, bigger deals where an account executive may be in charge of closing a deal that's worth, I don't know, let's say £10,000. Some companies may have smaller deals that's worth maybe £100. But ultimately, the account executive are in charge of making sure that that customer or that prospect, pays. So that's the reason why they tend to be very, very much incentivized and they get the remuneration. So I know a lot of account executives who will earn six figures, so being £100,000 plus. And when I say that, because I think it's important to break down that when you hear that you can earn that kind of money, it's not like the tech company will say, right, I'm offering you, Peter, £100,000 and you'll earn that for the year. No. What it's split into kind of two things. So you'll get your base salary. So your base salary is irrespective of whether you sell or not, that's what you'll get. A lot of tech companies will do that. And particularly if you're someone that, let's say you live on your own and you've got bills to pay, I always encourage people to make sure that your base salary covers your expenses. And also you can save, because in sales, it can go up and down. There's going to be seasons where you could work so hard that you may not be able to get the pay. So the base salary is what you'll get. Even if you sell nothing, if you just sit back and relax, that's what you will get. And that's usually like a yearly amount, depending on the company. Now, then you get the commission element. So they may say to me, okay, let's say Chinaza, they'll say, Chinaza, right, if you're able to close or convert this amount of business in the next 3 months, you can earn £50,000 on top of your base salary. So let's say your base salary was £50,000, you can earn £50,000. So what they then do is combine the two, and they'll say the earning potential is £100,000 OTE, which is on target earnings. So it's very, very important if you are looking at tech companies to understand, don't just get swayed by the numbers. Get them to break it down to you. If you make no sales, how much am I going to make? And if you do make sales or even exceed your target for that month or for that quarter, how much can I make? And even if they say £100,000 plus, some may say £80,000, you have to really ask yourself or ask them, what is the current team doing? Are they exceeding their target? Are they meeting their target? Because some tech companies, if I'm going to be completely honest, they may give you good numbers in terms of earning potentials, but the reality is the team isn't actually hitting those numbers to be able to earn that amount. Now, in terms of like things that the account executives will have to do in terms of their skills, I would say one of the biggest skills that account executives have to do is number one, or have rather, be organized. You have to be organized because you will have so many different meetings happening, and any one of them can convert into a big deal. And when I say convert, that means the customer are actually buying your product at any point. So if you're not organized, you may, let's say, be solely focused on one company and you suspect they're going to buy, but then not realizing that they may buy in the next 6 months, when really you thought they're going to buy in the next month. Remember, I've mentioned a lot about targets. So a lot of these tech sales companies, you will have targets in place. So that will always be there, but you have to be strategic about who you're focusing on. So I would say definitely being organized. Another thing as an account executive is having the ability to manage your pipeline. So this is me now using another like tech sales jargon or a sales jargon, but I really want to make sure that you guys understand. So your pipeline is almost like a collection of the potential companies that you think that will close. A lot of the times you will manage that or have a view of that on softwares like, or your CRM system, which stands for customer and relationship management system, such as Salesforce, HubSpot, Zoho. So these are some of the big tools that your companies will equip you with to manage your pipeline, to see what's going on. Because let's say you could be doing it via email, but things can get lost very easily. So you need a very clear vision, and your company also needs to understand, okay, how much revenue are we expecting from the team in this quarter? Because they may need to start looking at projecting, and if they really need to have an idea of how much revenue. So by having a CRM system like that, they can see what an account executive is doing, what deals are likely to convert into a sell, and they can monitor that. So organization is very, very much key. The next skill I would say, which is important as a account executive, is communication. Communication, absolutely imperative. And what I mean by communication is you've really got to know how to, because you're dealing with a software or a really technical product, right? You need to know how to translate that or communicate that to the person on the receiving end, because they may have no clue about what you're talking about. So for example, for my company, we have an accounts payable company. The person on the receiving end may not have no clue. Some of you guys may be like, what is Miriam talking about? So as an account executive, in order for you to really get them to buy, you need to communicate what your product or service does and how can it add value to that business. So if you use too much technical language, you're not going to be able to connect with the person on the receiving end. So you need to be able to break it down. So communication is key. And some people often overlook that. I've seen account executives, and even when I was an account executive, there were times where I would try and act very technical and very smart. It sounds good, it looks good, but does the person on the receiving end understand? And if they don't understand, they're not going to buy. They won't buy. And it's as simple as that. So communication is absolutely imperative. I would also say asking the right questions. So when I was an account executive, for example, I would have great demos, people who would absolutely love our software, right? A lot of these tech companies will have good softwares with good solutions that will literally change a business, change the trajectory of a business, help them save revenue, help them save time, especially with the automation side of it. However, let's say if I don't ask that person on the receiving end when they are going to buy, I could be wasting my time. So a lot of the times when I have the demo, if I could see from the signals that I'm getting that they are receptive, right? That's another thing. You've got to look at the buying signals. Are they nodding? Are they asking you about pricing? The moment you hear them say, oh, Miriam, or oh, Ernest, what is the price? In your head, that is a potential deal. That is a potential deal. But the next question to ask off the back of that, and this is usually towards the end of that call, is, okay, when are you looking to buy? If you don't ask that question, you don't know what their timeframes are. And you're not able to, going back to your pipeline, you're not able to understand who's going to be potentially closing at what point. And that was a big mistake that I used to make, because I could be focusing on the wrong people at the wrong time. So that's very, very much key. And I hope that makes sense to everyone. Amazing. Any questions so far?
None from me. Makes sense. Very clear.
Perfect. Just before I go on to the next slide, I'll also say relationships, definitely. Relationships and negotiation is key. So a lot of the times, because you're in charge of closing the deal, the people on the receiving end or your potential client almost sees you as the person who can discount, or you can do anything for them. So at this point, when it comes to actually talking about the numbers, so if they're looking to buy, you've really got to be bold, and you've got to really just remind them that you can't just give them any discount. You don't have that power, or you don't have the authority. So that's important, because at this point during the sales process, you would have built a good relationship with them, especially if they're looking to buy. So you've built that rapport, you've built that connection. But if they then go on to, okay, I want to buy, but can you give me X amount of discount? If you don't have that, if you don't have discount, if you don't have authorizations to give discount, please don't promise anything, because yeah, it's a very dangerous thing to do. So for me, if I ever got questions like that, okay, I'm happy to buy, but can you offer me discount? I'll say, okay, let me get back to you. Let me go back to my manager, liaise with my manager, and see what we could do. Or emphasize on the value. What value, if they were to buy your product or service, what value are you bringing into the business? If it's going to save them time, then why are they worried about discount? Because there's not much time, right? A lot of businesses are now focused on time because ultimately, as a business, your main objection or your main objective is to continue to scale, bring in more revenue, maximize profits. So if you can say to them, right, if you incorporate our product or service into your business, this can save you time. Why would they ask for discount? And that's something that a lot of salespeople don't do. They don't emphasize on the value. The second thing I would say is, let's say automation, right? Automation is very, very important. It's a thing that a lot of companies are now thinking. How can they automate certain processes just so it's not as manual? Emphasize on that if your product or service offers that. That's very, very key. Again, let's say, like for our company, for example, we have a system where it prevents fraud. And how it does that, our system enables businesses to automate approval processes. So if I have a financial document that I want people in the business to approve, let's say it's an invoice, right? And I'm sending it to various different people. Let's say I'm sending it to Stephanie to approve. Then our system enables you to just automate that process. So you could say to the system, right, send it to Stephanie to approve this, and then send it to Ernest or send it to this person to approve that. So our system does that, right? Now, if that system wasn't in place, a lot of businesses will be doing that manually. So they'll be sending that invoice or bill to various different people via email, or they may be even doing it using a physical paper. That bill or invoice could be fraudulent. It could have fake details. And let's say if that bill or invoice is of the value of about £20,000, if that business is going to pay a fake bill or invoice to a fake supplier, that's dangerous. So our software, the company that I work for, enabled the team to see everything all in one place, see who's approving what at what stage, and identify if there's any problems. For example, if the actual supplier is correct, they enable businesses to do their due diligence prior to making payment. So if I'm now an account executive, like having that conversation about price, I need to emphasize on the value that that's bringing into that business. Because if they don't have that software in place, that's fine. It's not by force to buy, but you could lose a substantial amount of money if you don't have that in place. So these are some key things to think about as an account executive. And yeah, before I move on to the next stage, please do let me know if there's any questions so far. Perfect. I love the little thumbs up. Thank you so much. Okay, so the next. Oh, Peter, have you put your hand up? Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself if you have. Sorry if you haven't, but I just saw your hand up. Okay, no, sorry to put you on the spot, Peter, but yeah, not to worry. But if any of you want to unmute yourself, if you've got any question, feel free to. So the next role, or another key role in, I guess, tech sales, is a sales engineer role. So the sales engineer role pretty much sits in between the sales team and the product team, or the engineers. So the people, the team that are in charge of making the software come to life. You know, the technical roles. If you think about the engineers, your back-end developers, you sometimes need that person in the middle, because the engineers, even sometimes I will speak to our data analyst team or our product team, and they will speak a different language to me as a salesperson. So you need someone in the middle to be able to help the two teams collaborate, right? So the sales engineer, for example, they will ensure that they understand the product in a very technical way. So they will be, I often call sales engineers like the brains of the business. But the good thing about sales engineers is that they will also understand how to translate that into a sell. How can I take this knowledge from the technical team to then feed that knowledge to the sales team so they can sell. So an example could be some of the things that a sales engineer would do in a day-to-day is making sure that the sales team are equipped. So they'll do training sessions with the sales team, for example, to ensure that they're knowledgeable or they understand the software. Even for me, working for my company, there's so many different features we're launching all the time, but I may not understand the technicalities of it, but the sales engineers will be on hand to help me. Or let's say if I've got a meeting tomorrow with a big client, a big potential client, as an account executive, for example, and I know this client will ask very, very difficult questions that I may not even have the knowledge to give, because even as an account executive, you'll need to know the product, but you may not need to know the product in depth. All you really need to do as an account executive is just highlight some really cool features that you have, and then if it's aligned with that business, they'll buy. But if I now get into a call with a very technical company who are asking me, let's say the company have, let's say, a data engineer on the call, and they want someone on our side who is a data engineer on the call, I may not be able to communicate. So if I have our sales engineer in the call, that in itself, just that's almost like a match made in heaven, because they can communicate in the best way. But the sales engineer will also understand that they're not just communicating for communication's sake. They're communicating in a technical way now in order to make sure that client buys. So this is where the role of a sales engineer is really, really important. They will also be able to, they will be very, very analytical. The sales engineer will also, they'll have the mindset of, if they're speaking to a potential client, let's say that client is like, right, I love your software, I love your service, but it's just missing this one feature. The sales engineer will be able to feed that information very quickly back to the engineers, the backend developers, all of those people, to help them shape the product moving forward. It's also a very good role to, because yeah, with a lot of these companies, as I mentioned, their main aim is to ensure that they're continually growing their business, bringing in more and more clients. But if your product isn't catering to your clients that you want, you can get stuck at any point. So the sales engineer will always have that mindset when they're speaking to various different clients or potential clients in calls of, how can I make sure that I feed this back to the technical team, the engineers, so they can change the product to tailor to our clients. So it's a phenomenal role to be in. I absolutely love our sales engineers that we have in-house. I absolutely love them, and I always utilize them. And I would say for anyone in, let's say like an account executive role or an SDR role, build relationships with your sales engineers, because they will be the ones to support you to close a deal, especially with those technical deals where you don't even have the knowledge or support on your own to do it. So always build relationships. I would say I'm very much, I'm best friends with our sales engineers. We've got great relationships. And that's another thing. Always remember that your role can't function on its own. So build relationships with these people to assist you. Yes, that's a good question. That's a good question, Ernest. So no. So the sales engineers that we have in-house at our company, they've actually just worked their way up. And what I mean by that, they may have been, for example, an account executive before, but as an account executive, they were now thinking more about the solution side of things or the products in a different way. As an account executive, you're not expected to go deep in terms of your knowledge or your knowledge of the product or service. But if, as an account executive or any other junior role, if you can demonstrate that you have that mindset, you can then go into being a sales engineer. Now, obviously, if you've got an engineering background, it does work favorably because you will be able to understand the technicalities of it. But to answer your question, Ernest, you don't necessarily have to have an engineering role or an engineering background per se. No. Yeah. And in terms of salaries, the sales engineers, They get money. They get money. And a lot of them, they will also have a target to close deals too. They will. A lot of sales engineers, they will have a target to close deals, but their deals, depending on what companies you're working for, their deals will be very technical deals. So although they assist account executives in the other, in closing their deals, they will also sometimes have their own deals that they will have to close. And as a result, the money, especially if you're looking at, because some people want to go into tech sales because of the money, definitely look at roles like the account executive roles, the sales engineer roles, because that's where the money is. So yeah, that's that. Ernest is laughing. Okay, so a customer success role, and I am conscious of time, but it won't be too long on this. This is the role I'm currently in at the moment. So remember, the SDRs, they are the ones to find the potential clients. They will book in a meeting with the account executives. The account executives will hopefully close that deal, so they'll get the customer to pay the money. And then after that point, because the account executives, they will be very much just focused on bringing in money. That's pretty much the account executive role. They're not interested in, once they close that deal, managing that relationship. They're not, to be honest. And they shouldn't be, because they're bringing in a lot of money or revenue. They will then pass on that deal that they've closed. And at this point, they're now a customer to the customer success managers. Now, as I've mentioned, a lot of these companies, they will have, let's say, pricing, which is like 1 month rolling contracts. So it's very, very important when you've worked hard. As you know, this is not easy. It's not easy. When you've worked hard to bring in a deal, what you don't want is for after a month, this company to be canceling and saying, Peter, listen, I'm gone. I'm done. You can't scale as a business if your clients that you're bringing on are canceling every second. You can't. So you need a team that is focused on retaining those relationships, retaining that business. And this is where the role of a customer success manager comes in. So as soon as the account executives bring in that deal, the customer success manager will have to ideally contact that client, I would say, within the first week. If you're a great customer success manager, you'll do it within the next first day or second day. And what you'll do, you welcome them on board. So you'll say, it's great that you've bought a product or service, and it'll be great to schedule a call. And I guess that call will be understanding how you can assist them. And a customer success manager, they'll do various different things. So they may help with onboarding or implementation, because the softwares are sometimes technical, depending on what companies you're working for. You've now managed to sell the product to them, but that business may have no clue how to bring it into their business. So the customer success manager will assist that business to bring that software into that business so it works. So that's very, very key. One of the key skills that a customer success manager will have to have is they have to really be very much thinking about how to nurture those relationships. How do I build a long-term relationships rather than short-term? That's the main aim. Some of the companies I manage some portfolio or some of our clients that are generating multi-millions in terms of revenue, right? But for me as a success manager, one of the approaches that I do is I speak to them as if they're a friend. You have to take it to the next level in terms of relationships. A lot of the times when we think about sales or tech sales, we may think about it we may like overcomplicate it. But with sales, people buy from people. And if they've now bought your product and you can't connect to them on that personal level, they're not going to buy. Or they're not going to buy more, because what you want them to do, if they bought one, let's say one of your softwares, you want them to buy more. Or let's say you've got different products, right? And these products are part of your more premium subscription plan. For example, one of your products may charge £35 a month, but one of your premium products may charge £100 a month. How can you now get that client who's now a customer to go from £35 a month to £100 a month? You need to build relationships, speak to them as friends, understand what they want to do. So now they've come in, what do they want to do? Do they want to continue to buy more? Do they want to only use you for a short period of time? Because that will dictate the approach. Because what you don't want to do is spend time with too much time with clients that may cancel very, very quickly. So you need to be able to identify which clients are potentially going to scale and grow quickly. As a customer success manager, you are targeted, and some of the KPIs or targets that you're targeted on is ensuring that the accounts that you're managing will buy more, or they will upgrade. And you're also targeted on ensuring that they don't cancel. So what we call it in tech sales is churn. Churn is when a customer cancels. If I say my customer churned, all I'm saying is my customer cancelled. So you are targeted on that, because there's no point of bringing in all of these amazing deals, but let's say in the next 6 months, all of those amazing deals have now disappeared. So your company is now looking at how you manage those relationships, how you keep them in. So this is why I say, as a customer success manager, you really need to focus on how you can build relationships. Take that relationship to a next level. Speak to them like they're your friend. Speak to them about your holidays. If you see me some of my calls, I ask them, what are you doing for the weekend? You know, do you have any plans? Holiday plans, things like that. And then I will go into like technical stuff, but you have to lead with that. Or other things. Let's say if you've had some new product releases or product updates, you will also be in charge of feeding that information to them, because that information that you give to them can help them take that thing that they bought from £35 to £100. So you really have to think about how you can build relationships as much as possible to ensure that they buy more. That's the main role as a customer success manager. Does that make sense? Great. So I am conscious of time, so I'm just gonna. So Ernest is saying, seems a good voice. Bring them over to. Yes, perfect. Cultivate friendly relationships. Yes, yeah. With sales, I always say it to anyone that asks me, how do you do well in sales? People buy from people. So irrespective of whether you're an SDR, an account executive, a sales engineer, you know, a customer success manager, how can you build a relationship? Whichever role you are in will determine how long that relationship will be for, but always think that, because that is the basis of getting more revenue in. That's the basis. So that's not something that I'll just highlight. I'll quickly touch on the sales operations team. So the sales people-centered, absolutely, Timmy Toppy. People-centered. You have to be people-centered. Yeah. And that's how you do well in tech sales. You can't be too pushy. You can't say, are you going to buy today? If you have that energy, then tech sales is not for you. You have to have a soft sales approach, you know, build relationships. Even for me, I've worked in sales for 10 years, actually, in total. In tech sales, I've worked in tech sales for 2.5 years. But a lot of people will describe me as a soft salesperson. If you see me in my calls, I will never say, can you buy today? I'm very much like, how are you? How can we help you? What resources can we provide you with? Before you realize they're buying. So always think, how can I approach it in a soft sales way? Because people hate salespeople, to be honest. So you need to find a way to be a salesperson, but not kind of disguise it, right? And you're helping them. If your product or service is good, you are adding value to this business. So have that confidence, you know? So you're not just mis-selling. You're not selling something that's bad. You're selling something that's going to add value. Okay, I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to rush through this. Sales operations, so they kind of work perfect. Yes, you can't come across as too salesy. Absolutely. Yep. So the sales operations role, they are in charge of, let's say if the sales team are closing deals, right? The sales operation team, they will do the administration or the back end tasks. So let's say if I'm closing a deal, but I need to put it into the system to make sure that the company knows that I've closed that deal, the sales operation team will do that. Because if I'm closing a deal and I'm in charge of that, it can get very techie. For example, I may put in a wrong value, or there's some people in some sales team that will almost like inflate their numbers and pretend that they're closing deals, but they're not. So the sales operation team, they will be in charge of doing all of those administrative tasks in the background to make sure that the sales team don't have to worry about all of that stuff. So they're incredible. Sales operation teams are good. In the company that I work for, they also they're also like a customer service. So if I'm, let's say, on holiday and I can't support the companies that I'm managing as a success manager because I'm on holiday in Dubai, for example, the sales operations team in certain companies, they will also follow up with like questions. If you have like a live chat function on your website, the sales operations team will usually be there to support in that regard. They're very much analytical. They're very much in like thinking about processes. How can you ensure that your customers have the best journey? Because yeah, as we've already noted, you have to be customer focused. So you want to ensure that even though we're talking about sales, you've also got a team that's very much thinking about the back end of making it work. So the admin work, the efficiencies of the sales process. If somebody wants to upgrade, so if somebody wants to take their deal from a £35 deal to a £100 deal, I may not have that time to do it myself. So they will be the ones that are inputting all that data in the background. Yes, so I hope that makes sense. Okay, great. So I am conscious of time. I know we've only got a couple of minutes. So
Yes, please. But take your time. For me, right? I know we're conscious of time, but just go ahead.
Okay, perfect. And do let me know, guys, if you're happy to stay, please stay. But yes,
I am happy to stay.
amazing. Yeah, we're nearly finished the slides, but I want to give you guys as much information as possible because sometimes you don't get as much knowledge. When I got into tech sales, I didn't even know what an account executive role was. So I'm trying to just share all the information I have to help you moving forward. So how do these roles work together? We've pretty much all I've touched on this as we've gone along. And I think we've all understood that I can't be an account executive and not collaborate with other team members. I can't not collaborate with the SDRs, for example, because they're the ones that are bringing in the meetings for me to close that deal. I can't not collaborate with the customer success team because the customer success team are the ones that I pass my deals on to, and I need to make sure that that customer success team are managing my deals correctly. Because if I'm an account executive and all my deals are canceling after 1 month, that can reflect badly on me to the point where your company may say, what are you doing? They may even investigate you if your deals are canceling very, very quickly. And some companies, actually, I'll also note this, if you're an account executive and you bring in a deal, right? You close the deal. If that deal cancels within the next 3 months of you closing, even though it's now moved to another team, which is the customer success team, that organization or company may say to you, if that deal closes cancels within the next 3 months, we've paid you commission as a result of that, we will take that money back from you. So a lot of tech companies will call it clawback, because what they don't want is people who are mis-selling. If we're being a salesy people, and bearing in mind, you can make a lot of money in tech sales, right? A lot of money. You can just bring in a lot of deals, but you haven't done you're not doing it wisely, or you're not bringing in the right deals. So your company or organization will also look at that. So they will tell you sometimes in the contracts before you even sign up to a tech company or tech sales company, they will tell you if your deal cancels within the next 3 months, or even within the next month of you closing that deal, and they've already paid you your commission, they'll take that money back. So please don't mis-sell. It's very, very dangerous to sell a product or service without being, okay, perfect, Gertrude, you said yours is 3 months. Mine too is 3 months. Okay, yeah, that's a great question, Ernest. So Ernest asks, how do you recognize a quality lead to be retained? So this is where all the teams will come in. You need to make sure that your SDRs are bringing you quality potential clients that you can have meetings with. Because as an account executive, once those meetings come in, you will be the ones that are showing or selling that product to those people. If you don't ask the right questions, if you don't listen to what they need, if they're telling you, okay, I'm buying your software just for the next month and I'm going to cancel. If that's their mindset, then you have to be bold enough to say to them, in some instances, then this is probably not the right software or service for you. You know, because you don't want those kind of clients who are going to be canceling or just coming in and going out every second. No, you want clients that are going to be staying for the long term. And it's in the best interest for your company to ensure that they stay for the long term. So you've just got to make sure that at every stage in the sales process, you're asking the right questions to ensure that they're staying. Now, there's going to be instances where they do cancel within the next 3 months because maybe they're testing it out. They want to see it working. It's okay. That's fine. You're going to get the odd canceling. You can't control that. So don't think, I don't want to leave you with a bad impression of tech sales, but I'm just emphasizing on this for you to understand that, yeah, you've got to really be conscious of that. If they do cancel, that's fine. If it's the odd one or two, if it's the odd ones, but if it's all of your deals, your company will look at you. They will look at you because you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong, or you're not emphasizing on the value, or you're not asking the right questions. So please understand that. And let's see the next slide. Okay, so some tips that I'll give you, and I guess, yeah, we're finishing off soon. Some tips that I'll give you, and I've given you a lot of tips, is build your network in tech sales. Build your network. Gertrude and Akachi have done phenomenal creating this community for us to all be here to learn from each other, because there's so many different roles and there's so many different things that you need to trial and error in tech sales. For example, you could be sending an email, right, that you have been sending for the last 3 months. That was bringing in a lot of new business for you. You're using the same email for the next 6 months of the year, but it's not working. There could be someone in your tribe or in your community that say, Miriam, change this subject line, change this. You do that, that can bring you more revenue. That can help you hit your target, exceed your target, make more money. That's what we want, you know? So you need to have people around you, a community around you to support you. And even for me at this stage, I've worked in sales for 10 years, as I mentioned, tech sales for 2.5 years, but I do not know it all. So people around me in my network, they will advise me, or they will help me understand, how can I elevate in my career? How can I get to the next level? So build your community. That's absolutely important. I would also say, understand, as soon as you come into a company, don't just think, okay, this is my role and that's it. Understand how your role looks as a whole in the wider business. What other teams can you collaborate with? Because it's important. You will need as we've outlined, you will need other teams to assist you in order to make you the most successful person in your role. So you've got to understand what that role is, where your role sits in the wider company. Another thing that I would also say, as we've outlined, is continuous learning. Listen to podcasts, listen to books, like read books, speak to people. Just always have that open mind of learning. For me, I never want to ever get to the point in my career where I feel like I know it all. No. Sometimes I even pretend that I don't know it all so I can gain more knowledge, because there's so much to learn, so many amazing things to learn in tech sales. And as long as you're open-minded, you're open to continuously learning, you will grow. And for those of you, there's going to be many people in this call who may go on to become CEOs of tech companies. You know, let's claim it. Let's manifest this. There's going to be people who are going to become CFOs, senior positions, you know, not just your entry level roles. So you've really got to learn. The There's going to be people in your team who are going to be achieving their targets, exceeding their targets. There's going to be times that you're not going to be achieving your targets. You're not going to be exceeding your targets. How can you learn with people within your company? Ask them, what are you doing? Like, you can't do this role on your own. And that's one of the biggest tips I'll give you. Learn, 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 learn. Collaborate, humble yourself, and work hard. Work hard, because there's money to be made. You know, we all want our penthouses, we all want our Lamborghinis, we want our Rolls Royce, we want to help our family. Some of us are mothers, some of us are fathers, some of us have responsibilities. So work hard, because we deserve to be earning good money in these tech companies. We deserve to. There's no reason why we don't. I've seen good money. I've earned good money, and I'm continuing to want to be in positions where I can earn more money. And there's a lot of money to be earned, but I don't want you to be focused just on that. But if you work hard, if you are customer focused, as we've outlined, if you're not too salesy, if you're taking on advice that we're giving you on board, the money will come. Trust me, because you're in the right industry. So yes, I'll leave on that note, and I'll open the floor up to any questions. Yes, Temitope, we need a Lamborghini. Yes. Absolutely.
All right.
There's good money.
Thank you, Miriam. This was so insightful. I didn't keep track of time until you kept bringing it to our attention. But yeah, I time so far. So if we have any questions, this is the best time. I have my own questions, but I'll let you go first. I'm going to share Miriam's LinkedIn with every one of us, and we can connect with her on LinkedIn. That's for Rory asking. I hope I pronounced your name properly, Rory. Okay, so if you have questions, this is the best time to raise your hand and ask your questions.
Thank you. Thank you. And feel free to connect with me. I'm now part of this community. So yeah, like honestly, we all need to help each other. We all need to. So let's support each other. Let's support each other. Yeah. Feel free to unmute yourself or add any questions in the chat box, because I know we're over time, but if there's any questions, I really want to. So, okay, the books, one of the books that I always emphasize on. So with me, I'm very big on personal development books. I don't really read salesy books, but one of the books that you may all know is Atomic Habits. So that's probably one of my favorite books. And the reason why I love Atomic Habits is because Atomic Habits, it gives you an idea about everything that you do on a regular basis, even if it's the smallest thing. Those things accumulated together will give you the big results. And sometimes in tech sales, you're not going to see the results immediately. You're not, especially if you're new to a company. You're going to have to understand the software, understand the product, understand your clients. Who are the clients that your company want you to go and find? There's a lot of learning to it. But that book has taught me that continue doing the small things, then you will get the result over time. Another thing that another podcast that I absolutely love is The Diary of the CEO. I don't know whether any of you are familiar with that, by Stephen Bartlett. Absolutely love him. Really love him. Really love him. And there's so many different videos on his platform, so you can find him on YouTube, podcast platforms, etc. But like I said, a lot of these roles, if you focus on your personal development, for example, how to actively listen, how to communicate. These are skills that sometimes these companies don't teach you. You almost have to learn. If you, outside of work, focus on that. Thank you so much, Gertrude. Yeah. If you focus on that, then it will naturally help you in other areas of your life. Another thing that I'm also big on is mental health and well-being. Please, please, please look after your mental health and well-being. Please, please. We don't talk about it enough, especially in our community, but these roles are phenomenal. I've worked in these companies. I know the rewards. It's phenomenal, but it's also a lot. And I don't want to sugarcoat this for you. It's also a lot of work, but looking after your mental health will make sure you're in good stead. So one of the things that I'm doing now is going to the gym regularly, just so I've got an outlet. I'm a woman of faith. I'm Christian, I pray, and that's important. I go on walks, that's important. Before tech sales, me, I wasn't doing that. I played football, but I wasn't really taking time. And now I'm realizing my mental health is important. So definitely do things that are going to help your mental health, because that will help you come to work being your best self.
Exactly. I totally agree. So I have a question, and this is about how I would love for you to share an example of how effective collaboration between the different sales roles has led to a successful deal or customer relationship in your career. What's that one that just stands out when you think about it?
Okay, so I would say one of the successful collaborations, and it's happening to me right now, is my relationship with our marketing team, as well as sales engineers. So our marketing team, I haven't really touched on the marketing, but a lot of the times, especially when that client has come into the business and they're now a customer, the marketing team will want to find data. So how has this product impacted this company? Because they will need to advertise it, maybe on social media, or create a case study. So our marketing team really want to hear from you on the ground, who are customer facing, what's happening. Are there any success stories? Are there any companies or clients of ours that we can collaborate with? And the marketing team have helped me in many, many different ways. So, for example, I did a webinar, my first webinar for the company that I'm working for, about 2 months ago. And that was huge, even for me, just in terms of like career and personal growth and development. So that's an example. The marketing team are also able to give your clients a voice, because a lot of the times when clients buy your software, they almost think you're just taking from them, and they're not taking, it has to be a mutual kind of relationship. So the marketing team will be able to bring that to life and show that client, we're benefiting from you as well as you're benefiting from us, and we are going to create a case study or put it on the website to highlight that and showcase that. So yeah.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. I don't know if anyone has another question. I have just one more question, and then I will let Miriam go. Ask her your questions now. Milk this opportunity, honestly. And if no one has any other questions, okay. Oh, Stephanie, good. Please go ahead.
Yes, definitely. Feel free to unmute yourself if there's any questions, but I've got one from Olatoye. I hope I've pronounced that correctly in the chat. Okay, so I've got a question on just in regards to transitioning into B2C, so business to customer sales, and what your advice is on that. What's my advice like with that? Like, how do you start? Do you do an internship, etc.? Okay, what I would say, and this is something that I'm learning myself, it's very, very important to use platforms such as LinkedIn to connect with these companies. Connect. There's companies that can open the door for you just like that by you building relationships. I've had 3 different roles in tech sales, and each and every one of those roles have been me kind of going up in terms of money and seniority, if you like. But the more I utilize platforms such as LinkedIn to build my network, the more I understand that honestly, there's companies that will open the door for you if you find them and if you put yourself to them. So connect with them. Find individuals in companies that you want to work for. It may not be asking them straight away, oh, I want a job, but you could ask them, could we have a virtual coffee? Can I ask you questions about your specific role? Build a relationship. Remember, people buy from people. Even when it comes to jobs, people buy from people. So try and connect with people in the industries or in the companies that you want to work for. Find time with them in the diary. Ask them questions. You may get a lot of rejection. Some people may not have time, but there will always be that 1 or 2 that will give you advice. And they may even tell you, right, Olatoye, tailor your CV or send me your CV so I can look at it, review it and send it to this company. Honestly speaking, especially in my career, there's people that I call destiny helpers, people who will help you so much that you will go to the next level naturally. You will get the jobs that you want. You will get to the positions that you want. So find those people. They may not be people that you know. LinkedIn is a phenomenal platform where you can connect to people all around the world. I'm based in London. Gertrude Akache is based in Nigeria. How did this happen? Platforms such as LinkedIn. So that's the advice I'll give you on that. And utilize this community. You're in this community. So if you could ask people, you could say, okay, Peter, do you have any tips? So utilize your current network too to help you. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Miriam. That was clear. Okay, I have a question to ask you. I have two actually, but I'll just go on and ask one so that we can all go back to enjoying our evening. Okay, so this question is very important for people like myself who are very keen on building a career in tech sales. So I would like to know what you think about the skills or experiences that are necessary for advancing from a tech sales role to a managerial position or a VP of sales. From your experience, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. Phenomenal question. Because sometimes when we come into tech sales, we don't think about ways we can elevate or get promoted. And it's okay. Some people may want to be an account executive, and that's fine. Account executives, they earn good money. So some people are happy to stay in that. But when you want to go up, what kind of skills do you need, or what do you focus on? One of the things that I've realized, I would say, is understanding data, using data to your advantage. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're an account executive, right? If you're in a one-to-one meeting with your manager and they're asking you, how is it going? Don't just give them, oh yeah, it's going well. No. Communicate like this. Okay, I've got 10 deals right now in the pipeline. 20% of those deals I've spoken to, they're in these industries. They're likely to close in the next quarter or in the next month. Talk like that. Because a lot of these, if you listen to how the language that a lot of these senior managers use, a lot of the times, one thing that distinguishes them from us is that they're using data and they're communicating with data. And with business, especially when you get to the C-suite positions, like the CEOs, the CFOs, the people that are in charge of really giving you that promotion, ultimately, they communicate with those kind of, they communicate with that language. So always find ways where you can find data and feed that back to your manager, so they can see that this person is not just coming to sell. This person's understanding data. They're understanding how that translates to revenue, how that translates to us growing as a business. And there's been times, even for me right now, one of the things that I've mentioned to my manager as my personal development is, teach me how to use data. Teach me how to use things like VLOOKUP. I don't know whether you all are familiar with VLOOKUP, but it's almost like you can use things like that.
I think it's used in an Excel sheet or Google sheet.
Absolutely. A lot of these managers are using tools like that. So that's something that I've realized, and it was almost like a light bulb moment for me. And I've understood, like, even in the various companies that I've worked for, account executives or the SDRs who are communicating using data, they're respected. They have a lot more credibility. They're seen differently because they're communicating in ways that the C-suite people, the decision makers in the company, understand. So definitely use data. However you want to use it, but use data.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. And this is heavy in my heart because I have been tilting towards the numbers. I'm not a numbers person, but I've realized that in sales, you cannot exactly thrive without paying attention to the numbers, right? And data plays a huge role there. So yes, I totally agree. If we have no other questions, I think this ends. My apologies. So I think we can wrap up now. Oh, Rory has a question. Go ahead, Rory. Hi, Rory. Yeah, please go ahead.
You can hear me.
Yes, I can. It's glitching, but please go ahead. Try again.
All right. So my question is, can I understudy a sales professional? Can I understudy someone in sales? Because I'm basically new. So how do I get experience? How do I start?
Okay, yes, yeah, that's a great question, Rory. Great question. Okay. Something that I didn't really emphasize on is that sales is very much a customer facing role, especially the roles that I've spoken about. So, for example, when I was even when I was younger, I was a waitress. I was a waitress. For those of you who know, a waitress, someone in a restaurant, the person in charge of handing out the food. In that role, there's skills that you pick up. You learn how to manage your time. You learn how to communicate. You learn how to deal with different customers, difficult customers. Sometimes you're dealing with complaints. You're also understanding what customer service looks like. Don't underestimate roles like that. There was even a time when I was younger, my first ever role at the age of, I believe, 17, I was working in McDonald's. That was the first job I had. There was so much I learned, so much I learned. And even till this day, I never undervalue those skills, because a lot of those skills that you get from those jobs that may not be linked to tech sales are transferable. If you can communicate, if you learn about communication in those roles that you've done, even if it's at university or during your studies, if you're part of a team, right? I played football. When I was younger, I played football, and I played football even through to university. You learn how to work as a team. You learn how to collaborate. Things like that. If you now go into an interview for a tech company and you're able to translate that and show them, I may not have tech sales experience, but I did this, and as a result, I will be a good candidate. If you can show them that and you could show enthusiasm, they will give you the role. And another thing I would mention is, when you're coming into tech sales, there's so many different roles, as we've spoken about. Gertrude was speaking about trying to get to a senior position, right? There's roles which are entry level. So an SDR role, a sales development representative, the role that I mentioned during the first slide, that's considered an entry level role. Consider those roles, because they may not be as much money as an account executive, but that will give you the opportunity to come in, get your feet in the door. And a lot of those roles, they don't expect you to have previous sales experience. But what they would expect is that you have some form of experience or transferable skills like communication, collaboration, and that's up to you. When you go into an interview, it's up to you to really determine how you sell yourself to them. You may have no experience, but how are you selling yourself to them? Are you showing enthusiasm? Are you showing that you're willing to learn? Are you showing, we all have skills. We all have things that, there may be things that I do that I can't do that you could do amazingly, Rory. Or, there's so many skills that we have. So don't put in your mind that if I don't have experience, I can't get into tech sales. No. What you need to think about is, what skills have I accumulated in my life so far to get in? And I think somebody asked about an internship, if you should do an internship. Absolutely. If you're in a position to do an internship, yes. But if you've got bills to pay and these internships don't pay, please consider an entry-level role like an SDR where you will get money. Please. Because for me, I live on my own. If I'm now getting into tech sales, right, I'm not going to come and think of an internship that's not paying me money. So, but it's up to you. If you're in a position to take an internship, then absolutely. Every experience is good experience. But as I mentioned, there's roles, I guess, entry-level roles in tech sales where you can get your feet in the door and you don't need too much experience. Yeah.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you so much. Did someone raise their hand? I heard a beeping sound. Okay, but that was clear, very clear actually. And I would like to add to what Miriam said. If you are new to tech sales, the best thing you can do, amidst every other thing that Miriam has said, is join communities. And I'm not selling tech sales from Nexus right now. You should join us, but I'm trying to say that you should join communities. I am a part of a lot of communities, Akachi as well. We've been a part of the Women in Sales. Akachi introduced me to RevWit and a couple of other tech sales communities, and they helped me a lot. When I started at RiseVest, I didn't even know that what I was doing was tech sales until I started. I started to pay attention and ask questions. And I saw Akachi on Instagram, and I reached out to her and I told her that, oh, I'm new to this and I'm realizing that this is what I'm doing. She told me then that, you know, she had a community that she started out a while back, and I joined that community, and eventually we're here now, and it's just been learning consistently. Even while I'm here, I still join other communities, live sessions, ask questions, reach out to someone who inspires you, or something they said on LinkedIn or on their socials jumped at you, ask questions, and trust me, you will definitely grow and learn. Everybody's approachable, honestly, just reach out. What's the worst that could happen, right? So yeah, that's what I would add. If you have no other questions, I would like to call it a night for those of us here in Nigeria. Miriam, her day is just starting, and it's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you, everyone, for your patience, even when we had the technical issues earlier. Thank you for joining back in. And please join the community Tech Sales Nexus, follow each other on LinkedIn. If you want to drop in your LinkedIn, a link to your LinkedIn profile, please do that in the comment section, and we'll connect with each other before we leave the room. It's been a pleasure, honestly. I am lost for words. But thank you, Miriam, and enjoy the evening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Please drop in your LinkedIn link, your link to your LinkedIn profile. Yeah, that's much better. Drop your link to your LinkedIn profile and we'll connect with each other. Let's form a community. All right.
Thank you. And thank you all for staying on, because I know we've gone over, but yeah, thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity, Gertrude and Akachi. And have a lovely evening.
Yeah, you too. Pleasure is mine. All right, I'll give us 2 minutes to do that, to drop our LinkedIn if you want us to connect with you, maybe, you know, and we'll do that. Please connect with as much people as you can. I'll drop in my LinkedIn, although I feel like I'm connected to the most of us on here already, but I'll just do mine. I think I dropped the link for Tech Sales Nexus earlier.
Yes.
Maybe I'll need to do that again.
Thank you so much, Gertrude. Thank you so much, Miriam. I'm whispering. I'm already bothered. We'll talk later. Thank you. Love you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Yeah, she's traveling. She's on her way back to Lagos.
Oh.
So looking forward to it.
Oh, safe travels, Akachi. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you all. Thank you all. It's been lovely.
Yes,
take care.
Please. All right. Okay. I think we can go now. Bye, everyone. Take care of yourself. Bye.